Alright, anybody that's watched one of Nuxtaku's most recent videos probably learned something about me. I didn't want to be made public, but whatever, I'll just roll with it, I guess. Everything's out in the open now. That's right. I'm a fairy. Fairy Tekking101! Haha! Though you know who's not a fairy? I'll tell you who's not a fairy. Lucci. That's right. He's a leopard. Ah! Ew. Damn, nature, you scary! Alright then, well, moving on with our discussion series on badass One Piece characters whose names start with the letter R. By the way, I just got that, you know, because pirates, they say R. That was totally the reason I decided to start this series, 100%. I didn't just make it on a whim. By the way, allow me to tell you a really basic joke. I'm sure many of you have already heard this, but allow me just to throw it out there in case you're as oblivious to jokes as I am. What is a pirate's favorite letter? I bet you all said R, didn't you? The C be his first love. Oh, bam, zinger! I know I got a few people with that. Okay, so, yeah, let's talk about Lucci, okay? He's, basically the de facto leader of CP9. He's not technically the leader, but he's the strongest out of the group, so he's the leader, because who else would you have as that freaking slot? This doofus that literally summoned a nuclear explosion on a government island by accident? Yeah, no, Lucci's the leader of CP9, okay? So, Lucci, obviously, we just got off of talking about Rayleigh and Roger, so Lucci is not on that level, but hey, still a pretty badass kind of character. He really served to like, have a public face of the world government, somebody that's really strong, that's in their ranks. Because up until this point in the series, you know, we dealt with strong Marines, but the world government was sort of just like this vague entity at that point. Enies Lobby is really where a lot of this stuff started to come onto its own, where, yeah, the Marines are certainly a threat, they're the main military force that the world government controls, but no. The world government itself also has some pretty heavy hitters. They have an entire espionage crew sent to the far reaches of the world. The Cipher Pols made sure that everybody is kind of like doing the things that the world government wants them to do. Anybody ever says anything wrong or against the government, that's when, like, Cipher Pol number 3 reporting, we got some dissidents here in the South Blue. That's when they go take care of business, alright? So not just the Marines you gotta worry about, also the world government, okay? And none is more dangerous than Lucci, who has the power of the carnivorous zone, the cat fruit model cheetah, leopard, cheetah, jaguar, leopard. It's a leopard, right? Yeah, it's a leopard. Always confuse the spotted cats, but yeah, it's a leopard, 100%. Okay, so here's something interesting about Lucci's personality, though, you know? We get to see Lucci when he's a little kid, I think at the age of 8, when he's training in his Rokushiki, you know, the 6 powers on that random island. We don't really get to see much of his personality there, though. We just get to see him training in the art, his martial arts skill. Later on, we get to see him when he's 13 years old, and that's involving a story that we're going to get into later, but I'm just talking about his personality here. Very stoic, very just kind of an emotionless killer, essentially. Like, the government literally takes these orphans and then raises them up to be unthinking, uncaring, just robotic killing machines. Like, that is their job, alright? Sort of like the whole thing in Full Metal Alchemist that they were doing to make the next Führer King Bradley. Sort of kind of like that. Except where in that case, you know, they implanted a magic stone into the candidate. Here they teach them magic powers on how to walk on the air and, you know, turn their fingers into bullets. So, weird trade-off here. But my point is, when we see Lucci at 13, you know, he clearly has, like, the potential for violence and stuff, but he's just a really kind of stoic kid, you know? Later on, when we see Lucci as an adult, yeah, he does exhibit that same very, like, he doesn't, like, yell or speak out of turn, really. He just kind of does what he's told, even if it's by the orders of Spondum. But he has this underlying bloodlust, you know, where it's like, yeah, I'll listen to your orders, Spondum, but I'm going to fight Luffy because I want to taste his blood. You know, something like that. My theory on that is this. Remember back when Chopper said that those that have the power of a carnivorous zone are a little bit more ferocious, they have that more like wild primal instinct in you? I like to think that whenever Lucci ate his devil fruit, and we don't know exactly when he ate it, but it was definitely after when he was 13 years old, because he doesn't exhibit those powers at all during his flashbacks, so he's in his 20s when they fight against him at the Enies Lobby arc, so at some point there in the intermediary, he consumes the leopard fruit. It was also before he went undercover at Water 7, but I like to think that whenever he ate the fruit, that honestly gave him a little bit more, like, it kind of, like, undid a little bit of the programming that the government, raised him up on, where it's like, you are a member of Cipher Pol number 9, you will be raised in the art of the Rokushiki, you will do whatever the government employs, no matter what the order is, you will carry it out to the letter because that is your only duty as a living human, that kind of stuff. But he eats that, carnivorous zone, and he gets that little kind of like wildness in him, so it's like a lot of times with Lucci's character, and this is the thing that really makes him terrifying, is like, he's trying to hold it back, but it's kind of like that scene when Zoro was fighting Monet. It's like, have you ever met a wild animal that you were sure wasn't going to bite? Kind of like that. And I think Spondum feels it too a little bit because, Spondum's ordering Lucci around like he's just an ordinary subordinate. Dude, Lucci could drop Spondum and shred him into bloody ribbons in like less than a second, if he wanted to, really. Alright, so it's like, imagine being Spondum ordering him around even though if he has the authority, you'd be a little terrified of, like, the murderous aura shooting off of this dude, right? And I don't think Lucci always had that. Now, at this point, let's talk about his backstory, because that's probably the first thing people are going to jump to. Like, what are you talking about? Lucci didn't have murderous intent. Did you read his backstory? Like, yes, I did. So, this is Lucci's backstory, or rather, this is the one story from his past that we learn about. Probably a few other incidents that may have been a little bit worse than this. We don't really know. But back when Lucci was 13 years old, there was an issue in some random kingdom. We don't know the name of the kingdom or where it was at in the world, but that's not really important. There was an issue where some pirates had raided the kingdom, and they had taken 500 of this kingdom's soldiers hostage. And the plan was here that the pirate captain wanted to use these soldiers as leverage to become the new king of the country. It's like sort of like a 90s action movie, like, I got 500 hostages in here, world government, and if you don't make me the king of this land, then I'm gonna be throwing bodies out of here, and you're just gonna have to mop it up. I got an endless supply of freaking meat back here, Let's see what the butcher's coming out tonight, Alright, so basically like that. The world government's kind of like, alright, yeah, we need to send in the specialists for this, and by specialists we mean a 13-year-old emo kid, but seriously, don't piss him off, because once again, bullets are fingers, and he can shoot lasers out of his legs, so yeah, you don't screw with that. But he sends in Lucci because the king of the kingdom was about to give it to him. He was about to break here. So what Lucci does here is he walks in, he sneaks into the area where the hostages are being kept, and what does Lucci do? Does he take out the pirates really fast before they have a chance to do anything? No. Well, he does take them out, but he does kind of like Occam's razor up in this, and he wipes out every single hostage. 500 soldiers. He slaughters them all in a single night before turning on the pirates and wiping them out too. Now, in the process of this, Lucci did take a few hits. The pirates launched a bunch of cannonballs at him, and they struck Lucci's back. So you can see Lucci has the notable scars on his back that look like the world government symbol. Those are actually cannonball scars. It wasn't like a tattoo or something he gave himself, which just happened to be in the... It's sort of like marking him, like whenever an author does that, in the case of like Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling marked her character with that scar. It's sort of like he's bound to Voldemort. That's always going to be a part of him. He can never run away from it. Sort of in the same way with Lucci, whereas he has these scars on his back, and I don't think Lucci, like, there are some villains in the One Piece world that could change and become good. There's some that already have, like Frankie, for instance. Like, even Robin was a villain when she was first introduced. But with Lucci, with that mark on his back, like, that's always going to follow him. He's always going to be a dog of the world government. I never see see Lucci, like, changing his ways and being like, you know what, I think the world government is kind of corrupt. I'm gonna stop listening to them. No, this is literally, he's been brainwashed. And I said the carnivorous zone might have, like, altered his personality, made him a little bit more of a fighting machine, a little bit more, you know, excitable during battle and stuff. But at the end of the day, he still has all that programming, and that, along with that mark on his back, I think that indicates, like, yeah, Lucci is going to be one of the long-lasting villains in the One Piece world. I would be perfectly happy with him and Luffy having a rematch at some point. In fact, I mean, he's back in the story. He's Cipher Pol Aegis Zero. You know, he's much stronger now. If you go by Film Gold being canon, he's got Haki. He clashed with Sabo. Even if it's not going to be Luffy versus Lucci rematch, if it's going to be, like, Lucci versus Sabo canon, I'd be fine with that too, but Lucci's back and he's got to fight somebody, right? That's what I'm talking about here. Even if you want to have, like, another Straw Hat fight against Lucci, which I don't know who would be the best option there to fight against him. Chopper, maybe? That would be interesting. A zone versus zone kind of brawl. One of the last arcs of One Piece is, like, all of the main villains that Luffy has defeated come back together, sort of film like a Sinister Six kind of deal, and then the Straw Hats all have to fight against Luffy's previous enemies to show how stronger they've gotten. So, like, Chopper goes up against Lucci, Usopp goes up against, I don't know, Captain Kuro or something. That would actually be very poetic if Kuro ever came back. But you know what I'm talking about here. Like, maybe Oda might do something like that at this point. But yeah, Lucci took out all of the hostages, all of the pirates, but I don't think it was because of any sort of inherent, like, you know, bloodlust at that point. Like, I love the blood on my hands. No, I think it was just because of, like, yeah, I have been programmed to do this. I'm going to do this in the most logical way. Oh, a bunch of pirates have taken a bunch of civilians hostage and they're threatening to use them as leverage. Okay, we'll just wipe everybody out. No fuss, no muss at that point, right? Like, the hostages are gone, they got no leverage, then just take out the pirates, and everything's copacetic, right? So I think that's the way he viewed it then, and then at some point he ate that fruit, and then that got him a little bit more of, he got the little, the teeth coming out, like, oh yeah, how you doing there, rubber boy? Has the claws coming out. This is an image I got from Treasure Cruise, and it's really cool because this is a scene we never see Lucci in the entire story. It's him apparently, like, in a weird partial hybrid form of his zone where only part of his body has the leopard prints and his claws are coming out. We've never seen him like that, otherwise he's human. I really like this, and maybe that's implying that any zone, not just Chopper with the Rumble Ball, if with enough training, maybe you can modify, like, instead of going with your hybrid being 50-50, maybe you can go like 20% leopard, 80% human, or something like that. That'd be really cool. Let's talk about the Rokushiki here. I already did a whole video about the Cipher Pol, like everybody in the organization, as well as a video where I demonstrate the Rokushiki abilities. Tekking! See, now that's the proper way to... So you could check those out here, but I just wanted to bring something up, and I might have addressed this in maybe one of the other videos. So the question always gets brought up, why didn't the Cipher Pol know Haki? They were literally trained on a government island by the world government their entire lives, ever since childhood, to be weapons for their use. So, don't you think it would be insanely useful for them to learn Haki? Now, Rob Lucci knows Haki right now, but the Cipher Pol back in Enies Lobby, like Rob Lucci, Kaku, Fukuro, Jabra, they did not know any Haki. So it's like, how come, you know, they, like, even, like, some Marines know Haki, like, all the Vice Admirals at least know observation and army, like, a basic level of Haki, and you're telling me they didn't teach these little kids that were basically raised to be super soldiers for the world government, they didn't teach them about that? The way I view this is, the Rokushiki is a martial art. It's something that's focused purely on your physical body, okay? So there's one way of looking at it, like, you know, you can't learn Haki and Rokushiki at the same time, because that might be kind of difficult, you know, because Haki involves your spirit and your willpower. And where Rayleigh did say that every human being does have that kind of willpower in them, they all have the potential to Haki, that doesn't mean all of them are going to awaken it. And I would imagine with a few candidates, like, we don't really know, because Luffy kind of already had the basics for Haki when Rayleigh began to teach him. all right, because he had already exhibited conquerors a few times, and, you know, all that stuff. Even a little bit of observation, like during the war at Marineford, when Luffy was about to use his jet bazooka, and he pictured Mihawk cutting his arms off, you can say that as like, okay, he had a little bit of a grasp on observation. But when it comes to just a random person you pick off the street, which is kind of what the Cipher Pol is, you know, a bunch of orphan children, how exactly do you awaken their haki? Like, what is step number one to achieving haki? Because every time we've seen it in the story, it's always like suffering some traumatic event, like Kobe witnessing all the death around Marineford, he awakened his observation. You know, Luffy just, you know, training for so long and his disposition to be a king kind of got him to conquerors. But we've never seen like in Hunter x Hunter with Nen, like they explain like, okay, here's how you awaken Nen. We don't really get that in One Piece with haki. You know, there's probably a way to do it, but it wouldn't work on everybody, and everybody would be at a different level. It's probably just a lot easier to teach them the Rokushiki, which is the physical element of being a superhuman, whereas haki is the spiritual, like, willpower element of being a superhuman, right? And, you know, you figure, like, maybe learning Rokushiki might be a fundamental step to perfecting haki. Because Rob Lucci has haki now. I don't think it's been confirmed that Kaku does, but I'm assuming he does have it. It's not that, you know, like Kaku and Lucci were incredibly distant there. I mean, Kaku had his Doroki was like 2,000 something, and Lucci's was 4,000, but he was still the second strongest member of Cipher Pol. So, and he's in the story now. So why would Oda include Kaku again? Like, here's Kaku, he's back. By the way, he doesn't know haki. I'm sure he does. Also, probably perfected his giraffe fruit a little bit because he just got the fruit during Ennie's lobby during the fight with the Straw Hats. Didn't really have a mastery of it yet. Now he does. Giraffe Boy is back. Let me tell you something about him, right? Okay. As for the other members of CP9, we don't know where they're at right now. Like Khalifa or Fukuro or Jabra, we don't know where they went off to, but they could still be members of Aegis Zero. Maybe there's some of the, you know, masked members we haven't gotten to look at yet. We know Blue and O is still around. You know, Nero, nobody cares about Nero, right? So yeah, I would like to think it like that. Like, teach them Rokushiki, have them learn the 6 powers, and then when they master the 6 powers, it is very likely that they'll eventually awaken haki. So, I guess that's the best way to look at it there. Plus, in Lucci's case, he's mastered the 6 powers to the point where he has the 7th ability, which is, say it with me now, kids, you gotta inhale for this one. Roku Ogon! Boom! He's got the Roku Ogon, basically the reject dial that you could do without a reject dial, alright? He's got that. I definitely want to see that again. I mean, you gotta pull out the Roku Ogon again at some point in the series there. But yeah, other than that, we haven't really seen Lucci a lot outside of, like, he's more of like a cameo character at this point, where he shows up at the end of Dressrosa, shows up as a cameo in Film Gold, and shows up as a cameo at Reverie, and it's pretty much just like he's the same guy, you just know he's way stronger. Because from seeing his attitude at Reverie, you could tell, like, he's not, like, his fight with Luffy didn't have a change of heart in his leopard body, you know what I mean? It's not like Lucci got beat down by Luffy and he's like, maybe I should rethink my career choice. No, it was pretty much just like he got back up. He was pretty pissed at Spondum and everybody there. And if you read the CP9 independent report, it did seem like at the end of it, like they were going to go off on their own adventure, you know, and they call up Spondum in the hospital, and, you know, he's like, you know, one day we will come back. Yes, we will come back. And then they just sail off into the sunset. So the CP9 independent report really let me believe, like, they're done with the world government, they're fed up with it, and they're just going to do their own thing. But from what we've seen him since then, working at Dressrosa and then at Reverie, they haven't changed at all. Or have they? Because you got to remember, their whole job, their training, is in infiltration and espionage. And pretending to be someone they are not. That was the whole thing with Water 7. They seeped into Water 7 and worked as actual legit shipwrights for 4 years. Except for Khalifa, who was a sexy secretary, and for Blue and O, who was a bartender for some reason. Don't know why he got that profession, but fine, just roll with it. That's their whole thing. So, if you want to go with that route, maybe Kaku and Lucci got together and they're like, we need, you know, we're going to teach the world government a lesson for using and abusing us for as long as they did. We're going to infiltrate I-Just-Zero, and then we're going to do whatever we want, and we're going to, you know, do something with that. I don't know. It's not a guarantee. I'm just saying, like, if this whole thing is an act, CP9 are the best ones to pull this off, because that's literally what their training is in. So, you can take that or however you will. I don't know if you like that idea. I still want to see Lucci fight like Luffy again, or one of the Straw Hats. I'm cool with Lucci being just a bad guy through the entire series, because, you know, he's the kind of villain, it's like, he's not just a villain because, like, I like being evil. He's just this dude that's just like, I'm super suave, you know, I was just raised as an assassin my whole life. It's all I know how to do, really. No point in changing it now. By the way, I'm like a leopard, and I can just, like, you know, bite into you, you know? So it's like, not the same thing as just directly, like, chaotic evil. You really just have to understand his upbringing and how he had that there. It's not, like, the most, you know, well-written motivation for a villain, but you like to love Lucci as a villain, do you not? So, that's basically what I'm trying to say here. It's kind of hard to put into words, but that's what I got. But of course, at the end of the day, none of this matters whatsoever, because we all know the true villain pulling the strings for Rob Lucci is this demented fowl right here. Hattori. I don't think Oda's gonna do that, like, oh, by the way, it turned out it was the bird the entire time, but, you know, there's scenes like this, and you really want to wonder. I know this was something that was really just in the anime, but look at this soulless son of a bitch right here. And also, apparently, it's some sort of, like, immortal bird because it was alive during the time Rob Lucci was training, and pigeons do not live that long. I guess you could always say it was a different pigeon, but no, it's wearing the same tie. It was the same pigeon. This thing is some weird, you know, demonic hex demon from the ninth circle of hell. I don't know, but you watch out for Hattori. I swear to God, it's gonna do something freaky. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. There's only one more of these left, and it's going to be delayed a little bit because of some other projects I have coming down the pipeline, like the charity stream, but we will get eventually to this video. The #1 badass in all of One Piece, I'm sure, is not a contentious decision at all. Next video in this series will be about Rebecca. I swear to God, I'm not going to talk about her boobs. It's not going to happen. Not a single time. It'll happen right now because this isn't her video. We get to her video, it's not going to happen.